Alright, so we are into chapter 4. Yes, many of you are thinking, where did chapter 3 go? And that is a great question. I don't have an answer for you. But we're into chapter 4. So we are getting into more factoring. First one, greatest common factor. Let's get into it. So with this, we need to figure out what is the biggest term that I can take out of every one of these. Each term that's in our polynomial. So here we've got 8x squared plus 20x. I need to figure out what is the greatest common factor in both of these that I can take out. So I want to evaluate that. So look at the numbers here. I've got 8 and I've got 20. What's the biggest number I can divide both of those by? 4. Take a look at the x's. I've got x squared and x to the power of 1. The biggest power of x I can take out is just x to the 1. So that gives me what I've factored out. To figure out what is on the inside here, I just divide each of these terms by what I factored. So 8 divided by 4 gives me 2. X squared divided by x gives me x. So that's the first term. Plus 20 divided by 4 gives me 5. X divided by x gives me 1. So there we go. That's all you do. You'll note here, if your first term is negative, you always want to factor that out. So even if the other term does not have a negative, you will still end up taking that negative out. So with this, first term is negative, so we're going to factor that out. 16 and 12, what's the biggest number I can factor those? Would be 4. Both have an x to the power of 1, so I get x. Both have y to the power of 1, so we can factor that out. And then let's evaluate this. So negative 16 divided by negative 4 gives me positive 4. X divided by x, just 1. Y squared divided by y is y. Do the same here. 12 divided by negative 4 gives me minus 3. Because this is positive, this is negative. And I get an x. And voila, there you go. So that's what you're going to do as you go through this. You just figure out what's the biggest one. If you want to do the other ones, you can. Go through that in class, but this one's pretty straightforward, so I'm not going to go through more. You can do the same thing now with trinomials, quadrinomials. I think that's how you pronounce it, quadrinomials. And you can also evaluate these as well. So let's try this. So let's do the first one here. So what's the biggest number I can divide by into all of these is 3. I got x squared, x cubed, x4. Take out x squared, divide each of these terms, so 9 divided by 3 gives me 3, x squared divided by x squared gives me 1, so it's just 3, 12 divided by 3, 4, x cubed divided by x squared gives me x, minus 5x squared. Just like this. So it's the same as what we did above, you just have more terms. Let's try e. This one looks like a handful. Let's try that one. So I want to go through and figure out this one. So notice again, negative in the first term must factor out a negative. So because this, factor it out. What number divides into all of these? 3. Then I can factor out an x squared and a y to the power of 1. And what have we got left? So let's try this. Negative 15 divided by negative 3 gives me positive 5. Then x, y. 12 divided by negative 3 gives me minus 4. The variables are the same, so it just stays as minus 4. Negative 9 divided by negative 3 is positive 3. X squared cancels, and I'm left with y. Minus 18 divided by 3 gives you minus 6. X squareds cancel and you get y squared. And you get this. If you want to double check this, just multiply it back in and give it a go. So if I multiply this together, negative 3 times x squared times y times the first term, I get this term. Multiply this, you get this term. Multiply these two, you get this term. Multiply these two, you get this term. So you can... if you want to double check, just try that. So that is greatest common factors. Now let's try factoring a trinomial, one that looks like this. So x squared plus some number times x plus c. So there are multiple ways how to do this, and I teach one specifically because I think it's easy, and once you get familiar with it, you don't even need to write anything down. You can just factor this no problem. So what you're wanting to do is I want to break this up into two sets of brackets. So because I'm dealing with x squared, I'm going to have x at the beginning of each of these, and I need to figure out what the last two numbers are. So in order to figure that out, I need two numbers that add up to the middle number 5. Those same two numbers need to multiply to give me positive 6. If I can figure out those two numbers, that's what go in the brackets. So with this, I've got 2 and 3. So x plus 2, x plus 3. If you put a minus here, then you'd put a subtraction here. That's the only thing you need to know. So like this. Eventually, you don't even need to write this. So you'd come through and you'd say, okay, so I've got x squared plus 6x plus 8. What are two numbers that add to this one and multiply to this one? Well, that's just 2 and 4. So plus 2 plus 4. Let's try it down here. So again, two sets of brackets. What add to -1, multiply to positive 12. So two numbers that add to -1, multiply to -12. Well, that would be -4, positive 3. If you cannot do that in your head, that's totally okay. You can write this out. It'll take 5 extra seconds. It's not going to hurt you in the long run. So you can do that. No worries. Easy peasy. Let's just do one more example down here. Why not? So let's try k. Again, I know it's x squared, or the first terms are x's because of this term here. That's pretty easy. So what add to -6 and multiply to positive 8? This is kind of like the one we did before. It's just going to be -2 minus 4. And we'll get this. So that is, that is the end of this section. So I'm breaking this chapter up into 2 sections because the next factoring is a little bit trickier. But this one's pretty basic. Give you a little bit of a breather on factoring. And again, star the questions that you don't understand in the notes. If this all makes sense, that's fantastic. You're just going to be working on the practice problems in class. So I will see you there.